Oh my gosh. I see some insect inclusions. The unfortunate thing about this is it split this bug right here right in two. Another thing I'm noticing is the smell. It smells like a rainforest at noon. I don't know, it smells very muddy. So yeah, they kind of just told me to sit down right here, so I'm not too sure what they're gonna put in front of me, but I'm excited to find out. There's a big box. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Okay, I think it's pretty obvious. We got some amber here. If there's anything I love about gemstones, it's inclusions. And when it comes to amber, amber has inclusions that no other gemstone has because it is an organic gemstone. Look at this, you can see twigs in there. So I know that this kind of looks like an ant nest, but it's not an ant nest, and I can tell because some of these cavities actually still have the prehistoric wood inside of them. If you take a look here in this hole, you can see a little twig like it's trying to break out of there. If this is amber, then the little twigs that we see inside of here are at least 10 million years old. You can see in some of these cavities, they are empty, and of course, some kind of decomposition can occur and it's going to eat out that cavity and make it hollow. Aside from that, we have a really interesting structure right here. It almost looks like the interior of a tree trunk. It's kind of ribbed. That would make sense because amber is fossilized tree resin. It's prehistoric tree resin that is hardened over time. So it is possible that this could be what's called copal. Now, copal and amber are identically the same structurally. They're both organic gemstones with amorphous structures, but the only difference is copal is up to 10 million years old and amber is anything older than 10 million years. That's fossilized tree resin. Another thing I'm seeing is a lot of bubbles. Air can get trapped in amber as well. We got some elongated bubbles, we got sporadic bubbles around here. I'm seeing some crazing on the surface here. So crazing is this kind of crackling appearance that can happen on the surface. If too much heat is applied to it, it just kind of turns into a little desert floor. This thing is huge, but it's actually not that heavy. Believe it or not, a lot of amber is actually found on the Baltic shore. That's because a prehistoric forest used to be on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, and since amber has such a low specific gravity, once it's unearthed, it'll actually float to the top of the ocean where it then washes on the shore. So yeah, this is an extremely lightweight material. So this is really cool, but I see a couple more boxes in queue, so let's check them out. Box 2. Okay, so we're gonna get into some bug territory now. So this is Baltic amber. The cool thing about this kind of amber is I see some insect inclusions. Now it's actually kind of painful for me to look at this because this used to be one piece of amber, but this kind of thing happens. The unfortunate thing about this is it split this bug right here right in two. He has been separated from his feet. Let's take a look at this top part of this bug. Okay, so this insect is very white and he's actually disappearing a little. A lot of the cavity here is hollow. There's some black in there. That's disgusting. This looks like it might have been, I don't know, like a moth. It looks kind of fuzzy. As far as insect inclusions go, this one's pretty big compared to the other ones that I've seen. Let's take a look at the bottom half. I just see some little tendrils of feet. Yeah, that's not gonna tell me anything. Oh, you can see like 4 little black holes where it just cut its feet right off. That's gross. Oh, there's another one. Okay, this one's intact. It also looks white, which is very interesting, but at least he's whole. I can see his abdomen, I can see his wings. He looks perfectly preserved in there. It's kind of wild to think about that insect being in this piece of amber for more than 10 million years. In fact, lots of scientists use insects inside of amber to learn about some insects that are now extinct. All right, these are really cool, but let's move on to some of these other pieces. We're gonna go right here, and right off the bat, I see a perfectly preserved insect. This is interesting. This one is not white. This one is actually bug colored. It just looks like a regular mosquito. You can kind of tell that whoever polished this down had that inclusion in mind because it is right at the center of the base. So I don't know where all of these pieces of amber are from. I know that these are from the Baltic, but I can speculate where the others are from based on their fluorescence, which is what I can show you right now. So the fluorescence in amber is caused by the absorption of ultraviolet light, which causes the electrons in the amber to become excited and move to higher energy levels. When these electrons return to their original energy level, they emit visible light, which gives this amber a glow. Amber can fluoresce different colors based on their location. We don't exactly know what causes the different colors, but we have to speculate that it has something to do with the organic compounds inside. Generally, Baltic amber fluoresces green, and amber from the Dominican Republic fluoresces blue. So let's see what we got here. All right, so if we start over here, we got a nice green glow. It's kind of a foggy fluorescence, if you can tell. Let's take a look at the next one. All right, that's looking pretty green, and that would check out because this is labeled as Baltic amber. Now, if we go to this next piece, this one actually looks blue. So with that information, we can speculate that this piece of amber might be from the Dominican Republic. If we go to this next one, we'll see a nice green fluorescence, but this piece of amber is not like the others. This is called reconstituted amber. In the gem trade, there are lots of different processes to make unusable gem material usable gem material. And one of those processes when it comes to amber is reconstitution. The process of reconstitution for amber is taking a bunch of smaller pieces of amber, melting them down, pressing them together to make one large piece of amber. There are a couple telltale signs that tell us that this is reconstituted. One of those is its inclusions. It doesn't look like the average amber with twig inclusions or insect inclusions. What you do see are wisps of brown, and in between those wisps of brown, it almost looks like there are cleavage planes. Now, these are not in fact cleavage planes. What these are the edges of each piece of amber that's been pressed together. It still forms kind of a barrier. Now, you don't need to meet a high temperature to melt amber or copal. In fact, Rob did it just a few months ago on this very channel where he made one boil in his tweezers. Fun fact is that some ancient cultures used to use amber and copal as adhesives, natural glue. Now, one thing that's really unique about this piece of amber is it doesn't contain any bugs. And you may think that maybe I just got an unlucky piece. There are a couple possible reasons for this. One of these reasons is rapid hardening. If the amber cooled too quickly or hardened too quickly, there wouldn't really be any time for bugs to get in there in the first place. Another reason might be that some resins might not be attractive to insects, or they might not even be that sticky. Even though I don't see any bugs in here, I do see something rather unique. These are spheroids. Now, these structures are believed to be remnants of the resin-producing glands of the original plant that amber came from. That's all for these pieces, but it looks like we got another box. Let's get to it. This one's a little smaller. That doesn't mean a thing, though. Awesome. Okay. All right, subtle differences. Still very resinous. The first thing that I'm seeing is the color. This is a muted yellow, but there are still little bugs in here. This is copal, for sure. Copal can range in colors from this color all the way up to almost the color of amber, but remember, what makes it amber is the age, and that has to be determined with a bunch of fancy tools. Another thing I'm noticing is the smell. It smells like a rainforest at noon. I don't know. It smells very muddy, kind of piney. Some ancient cultures used to use copal as an incense. In fact, the word copal comes from the Nahuatl word copali, which means incense. One destructive test that you can do is called a hot needle test. If you take a hot needle to the surface of copal, you will smell kind of a piney scent. That will not happen with amber because those pine oils have evaporated due to the extreme amount of time that has passed. There is another very slight thing that I'm noticing, and that is that this copal, it's somehow less hefty than the amber. If we drop this in our hand, you can barely feel it. I'll be honest, I can barely feel that. This piece of amber is almost the same size as this copal. I feel a thunk. This is kind of a feel that you get the more you do this. If you really want to get good at determining the heft of a gemstone, just do this all day. But that brings up a really interesting question. If these are made of the same exact thing, Why is copal less dense than amber? So it has to do with polymerization. So polymerization is the union of two or more molecules that form together to create a new compound with the same elemental proportions but with different properties and a higher molecular weight. This also means that amber is slightly harder than copal, and it makes sense. A common term used for copal is baby amber. It hasn't had that time to fossilize and become as hard as amber. So on this channel, we take a closer look, and my closer look is, of course, this giant piece of amber, or copal. We don't know for sure. Let's take a closer look. So I had a ton of fun showing you this amber and copal. If you have any more questions about them, let us know down in the comments, and while you're there, like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. See ya.